I find it very interesting, actually, trying to pinpoint which of these columns I felt like was so often left out, because in retrospect, I've had conversations with hundreds of agents who does one well but doesn't do another well. And like a table without its fourth leg will tip over. That's very much the case with your real estate business. So today, Nathan's going to dive deep into the 4 pillars and what exactly they are, what comprises those pillars, and we are in for a real treat today. So Nathan, thanks so much, and I'm going to kick it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here, and thank you for having me on. I know, like you said, it's business planning time, because technically 2021 starts in like 14 days or something. So, I mean, it's coming right up. And so the timing of this is really, it's really important. And I know we talked about how to increase an agent's production in the next 90 days, but it also goes into business planning and starting 2021 strong. Mm-hmm. So I know, with the locker room, and I can dive into all that, and I will as I go through today, but really, I want to ask you a question. So we've been serving real estate agents for years now. I've trained thousands of real estate agents as well as coaches across the United States. And as far as recruiting and being in a leadership role and actually bringing agents into the world of real estate, one of my questions that I always ask of a new agent getting started was, how much do you want to make? And what do you think that number is?
My first guess was going to be 60,000, but then I was going to guess 100,000.
It's 100,000, 6 figures. I want to make 6 figures in real estate. I want to make that magic $100,000 number.
Right.
So what's interesting about that is when you actually go in and you look at the statistics that the National Association of Realtors puts out, and they just released one back in June. And I actually just recently pulled that, and I was looking at it for our call today, and I was like, okay, of those that are less than 2 years in the business right now, only 3% of agents in their first 2 years in the business will actually achieve that $100,000 plus mark in the first 2 years in their business. Okay. So that's like, first off, like only 3% of those new agents are doing that. Mm-hmm. Well, another statistic is that actually the NAR ran was 97% of agents will actually close less than 24 transactions a year, no matter how long they've been in the business.
Okay.
And what that leads to, looking at the median income for agents in today's world, in 2019, this report was run where it showed that the average median income, the median agent gross income, was $9,300 in 2019. And this year in 2020, same report, the median income for an agent is $8,900. So it actually went down.
Is in 8,900?
$8,900 is the median income for an agent in today's world. So that's painful, right? Like it hits home, because it's like, okay, first off, it costs money to get started. There's annual renewals, there's splits, there's everything else. And those are the gross numbers. So it's like, how do we set agents up for success and ensure that they're on track to hit their goals, like most of them want? They want that $100,000 mark. So today, like you said, like I really want to get into really 4 pillars that we're going to be talking about. And there's a couple different subjects in each pillar. Mm-hmm. And so stick with us to the end, because there's going to be something that is going to be relevant to, as a broker, how do you lead those agents to success in any one of these key areas? Mm-hmm. And then at the end, we're going to be talking about like, how can you actually implement this to move it forward and everything. So let's get started. You ready?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm really excited about this. Let's dive in.
Awesome. Okay. So the first thing is really setting up and establishing a strong foundation, right? I mean, we're in real estate. We all know about foundations, right? They crack, they break, they move, and all that stuff. But ultimately, it's the house it's the foundation that the house ultimately sits on. Well, we have to make sure as brokers, as leaders, that we're setting agents up for success. And so what do I mean by that? So
can I share your picture that you sent me while we're talking? Like, is that okay? Is that kosher?
Yeah, sure. And I sent it to you, so you can send it out to the audience or post it on Facebook later if you want to, whatever. Like it's cool. So.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Throw it up there. You're going to see all of the notes here, so it'll help keep us on track. So, So one of the amazing statistics that I recently heard was that over 80% of agents getting started in real estate today have zero sales experience and very little, if any, business experience. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
You know what? I hate to stop you so early, but this is something that I have been saying, and I need some validation from you because you're a business coach. Real estate companies are sales organizations. They are sales professionals. They are a business, and they are a business driven by sales. So the fact that you're telling me that the majority of agents don't have sales experience and they don't have experience running a business means the majority of agents are getting into this 0 for 2.
Mm-hmm.
So
and it's technically 0 for 3 because a lot of people getting started in this either are doing this as a second career, so they may be transitioning from a totally separate industry. So again, as a leader leading agents right now, I have to do 3 things right off the bat.
Okay.
One, I have to teach them this world of real estate, right? We all love it. Like, we teach them this world of real estate in this language.
Yeah.
We then have to teach them how to be a salesperson and sell themselves. And then we also have to teach them how to run a business effectively. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, what are they? What was an agent that's selling 2-3 homes a year?
Yeah, floundering.
And they're hobbyists, right? Which is okay. Like, there is a place for that, and that it's a great additional income for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But the people that truly want to operate as a business and treat this as a business, and it's so, like, real estate is one of the highest ROIs that you can get in any sales, right? Sure. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah. How many professions can you become a millionaire in without a high school degree?
Yeah. It's just insane. It's super high ROI, and it's just simply following a system. It's following processes and being consistent. So we have to teach them that foundation. And so we teach them those 3 things, and we make sure, right? This is one of my big things. When I was recruiting a lot of agents into the industry, and I did it for over 5 years, one of the big questions I always asked is, what's your reserves look like? Like, how much money do you have in the bank? And even as, like, if you're leading agents that are experienced right now, those are great conversations to come back to. Like, what are your reserves? Because that's when we typically see, when board dues are coming up or MLS or anything like that, those fees that are starting to come up, like, that's when we see people leaving the business because they don't have enough to pay the bills.
Sure.
So setting up a strong foundation and expectations around that. That's really going to lead to the next point, which is developing a big why, right? We always talk about that. We know that in sales, like, we have to have that burning desire, that fuel inside of us to push us. Well, when you have the consultation or the conversation with any one of your agents, whether they're getting started or relaunching or pushing for more production, you've got to be able to anchor them back to that big why and help them start. I always imagine and I see this guy pushing a rock up a hill, or, taking that first step is always the hardest. Like, it takes some time to get momentum, and you've got to have enough energy to get the ball rolling. Mm-hmm. So being able to pull back people to the big why. Okay. And then the last thing is in the foundational section that we feel is really important, is getting into action, like immediate action. And so helping create a very simplified business plan there, where you're setting annual goals, you're setting monthly goals, weekly goals, daily goals, and you're breaking the actions down to such a simple level that it's almost impossible for them not to succeed. Mm-hmm. Now, we can do all that. However, it takes them taking action. That's all what it's about. Yes. And so we can set them up for success. Mm-hmm. And when we do that, and we can hold them accountable to those actions, then that's when agents start winning. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, don't be a secret agent. Teaching them not to be a secret agent.
Yeah. That was a phrase I learned early in my career in this industry. I found that to be very ironic, because you're either a secret agent, or, as one of my clients told me, agents are failed celebrities.
There you go. Failed celebrities. I like that.
Who else puts their name on billboards, right? Real estate agents, lawyers. But all joking aside, I would love to dive into a little bit of the get into action piece, that scaling back, I want to make $100,000 to what each step, turning that into a 90-day, 1 month, 1 week, 1 day plan. Can you give us some examples of what that could look like for a 6-figure earner?
Yeah, and when we look at it, right? So we refer to this as our blue ocean agent, right? The opportunity that we see with our organization is we want to make an impact in that 97%. So let's take an agent and we'll just take an average commission of $6,000. Okay, so $200,000 sale, 6% commission. Well, a lot of people talk gross, right? They talk, what are you earning, right? Well, let's do some math. We'll do some really quick math. So I have a $6,000 commission and say I close 24 transactions, right? So we're helping people move the needle. So where they continuously close that, say they're closing 24 transactions, that's $144,000 a year. Okay. So in order for us to really break this down, we have to know, okay, it's not about how much we earn, it's about how much we keep.
Sure.
And that's the important thing. So yes, you may make $144,000 and it may take more than that to actually net the 100,000. And so you have to look at what's the split look like with an organization? What are your expenses that you have to do? And by doing that, you can look at it and go, okay, in order for me to truly bring home that magic $100,000 that I want to earn as an agent, I know I have to close this many transactions. So then what do you do? Say it's 24, right? So it's 24 transactions. Well, I know I have to close how many a month?
Yeah, 2 a month. Got it.
2 a month, right? So then you take it to the next step and you go, okay, of those 2 a month, well, how many listing presentations do I need to go on or buyer consultations do I need to go on in order to make sure that I'm closing 2 a month?
So I think that's the key number right there. I don't think people actively track that.
Right. And statistically, we see that brand new agents getting started, when they properly implement tools and systems, it's about a 50% closing ratio. Like that's a pretty safe number. So let's just say it's 50%, right? So if I want to close 2 a month, I need to make sure I'm at least going on 4 appointments, whether it's buyer or seller, a month. Okay. Well, in order to get those listings or buyers, you have to go one step further and you say, how many contacts do I have to make? And so continually breaking this down to go, all I have to do on a daily basis is make X amount of contacts, do X amount of activities, whether it's handwritten notes or whatever it is, to continue to follow up with people. We'll talk about follow up here in a little bit, but that's it. It's just breaking stuff down so simply that it helps people move forward and go, wow, okay, all I have to do is do 10 contacts a day. Wow, that's you do that just driving to work and stuff. So
yeah, people don't often connect 10 contacts a day with $100,000 in earnings. It's funny how that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. So I know with you and your organization, you're largely coaching brokerages. So is this coaching, or is the conversation we're having what you're coaching your brokers to have that conversation with their agents? Help me understand the dynamic here.
So as a part of this, like we look at this and go, okay, the 97%, our blue ocean that we talk to, and that our main purpose and mission is to help them reach their fullest potential. Well, we said, okay, how many that are median ad income, right? Earning $8,300 or $8,900 a year right now. How many can afford coaching like on a one-on-one basis? It's pretty tough. And, we've been a virtual coaching organization since we started just a little over 4 years ago. And so we said, okay, how can we make coaching so affordable it's almost impossible not to do it? And we're like, well, that's where we partner with real estate brokers and we provide tools, systems, training, and we actually provide weekly coaching to every agent in their organization in a group format. And we do it in a very unique way. So we are also having these conversations. And we're actually getting ready to start, on, I think it's October 5th, we're actually starting a whole series in our group coaching. It's all around business planning because, like I said, 2021 starts on October 1st.
Yeah.
So we coach and partner, and we refer to it as partnering with our brokers and empowering them with all of the tools and saying, okay, like if this is where you want to move your needle as a company, here are the tools that we have in our arsenal that you can implement. And here's how to do that. oh, by the way, if you need our help doing it and presenting it to agents, let us know. Like, we'll work on how we
Okay,
can do that.
perfect.
So,
Yeah. So listeners today, this is a business planning conversation that you would get to have with Nathan in the locker room. Brokers, this is the kind of support that they would bring to your business. So I just wanted to frame it in the right light so that everyone has an understanding of where they may fit in the puzzle piece here. So
yeah.
we're discussing the first pillar, and that first pillar is foundation, right? The big
Yep.
why, get into action, fundamentals of business. Is there something else you wanted to add there before we move on?
No, it's just, it's really that. I mean, and that's where everything starts. I mean, everything rises and falls on the foundation that that person has. Again, whether they've been in business, they're relaunching, they've been struggling, or they're at that point where they're having a consultation with you as the broker owner and they're wanting to move forward. This is the place you start. Like, you go back to the basics, just like you do in sports, right? I mean, the locker room, we're very sports driven, right? But looking at the foundation and going back to the fundamentals of like, okay, it's time to do line drills, or it's, hey, go run around the track a couple times, whatever it is to help them get the basics underway. And that's what the foundation's all about.
Okay, perfect. And the last piece I want to touch on the big why there, I think it's heavily underrated, because a big why per se doesn't necessarily secure a listing for you, but you don't secure listings without having a big why, right?
Well, and the why spurs the activity, right?
Yes.
And the activity leads to the opportunity, and the opportunity leads to the result.
Exactly. That's great. All right, so we've got the next pillar coming up here, and that's skills, according to this. So talk to me about skills.
So this is where we get into it, right? So I mentioned earlier, we have to teach them all of these things. We have to teach them real estate, we have to teach them sales, and we have to teach them business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we also have to teach them in the skill set on how-tos, like how to do all of these different things. And so I also refer this back to the secret agent conversation. How do I strike up a conversation with somebody that I know so I'm not going to annoy them? So I'm not walking into the room, because that's where a lot of associates get stuck. Like, they don't want to bother their database, even though the database is like, I want to support you. They're like, yeah, I don't really want to do it, and
Sure.
And so teaching them what to say, how to say it. We also, who to talk to, so actually looking at your database or your sphere of influence or whatever you want to call it, like identifying those individuals where you can have that immediate conversation no matter what, because you have influence over them. You can pick up the phone and be like, I need to tell you what I'm doing now, and I'm really excited about it. Can I meet you for coffee for 10, 15 minutes, or Zoom or virtual tea or whatever we're doing now,
Yeah.
But teaching them how to lead generate on purpose and with the strategy. And every agent's going to be different, because there will be people that will just not choose to call their database. And they're like, hey, I am all about going cold, like cold call, cold lead generation for sell by owners,
do it,
whatever. Like that's their jam, and they love it. Hey, cool. Helping them put a system in place and teaching them how to do it is a part of that first level of skill set.
Okay. So I've got a real life example I want to throw out here. I want you to grade this based off of how your reaction. I just want to get your reaction from it.
All right.
I've got a client who used to be in tech staffing. So she did a lot of her prospecting on LinkedIn with CTOs, product managers, people to that extent. She took her LinkedIn connection, her LinkedIn database, plugged it into her Chime CRM, and began calling these people, whether or not she had ever actually worked with them in staffing. But her scripting was, hey, Nathan, we connected on LinkedIn when I worked for XYZ staffing company. I wasn't able to help you then, but I wanted to let you know I transitioned into real estate. Have you been considering buying, selling, or investing into real estate? And that was her script. That was her attempt at not being a secret agent. Like, what's the gut reaction there?
There's a couple. I can look at it a couple different ways. Like if it does, first off, is there a relationship there at all? Or are they just a cold lead?
So these are LinkedIn connections. So it spans the gamut from connected on LinkedIn, never met in person, never had a full-fledged conversation, to worked extensively with, and everywhere in between.
So I would probably break it up. And before I would even send that message, I would actually like separate the database or separate the LinkedIn contacts. And I would say, okay, these are people I've had interactions with, and these are people that are straight cold.
Okay.
Like I think the straight cold is an excellent opportunity to send that message, because what do you have to lose, right? You're just letting people know, like, hey, here's what I'm doing. I've made a transition. And if you happen to know anybody, cool. Like, I don't think, like, of 1,000 people, how many connections will you actually get back from that? I don't know. Like 10, 15, maybe
Sure.
20, but on the other hand, I would probably take more of a personal approach on the people that I've had interactions with.
Okay.
So whether it's, hey, we haven't connected in a while, want to see how you're doing, and I'd love to share a little bit about what I'm doing. Maybe not jump straight to the, hey, are you looking to buy, sell, or invest, or who do you know? I'm not sure I'd go straight there right off the bat if I had a connection with them.
Okay. So if you have a connection, you go the more personal route, the warm and fuzzies. If you don't necessarily have a personal connection with them, you kind of skip some of the conversation and go more into the real estate.
Yeah, I mean, you could absolutely. Now you can take the time to start cultivating those relationships, and I think that's initial conversation with those cold leads. But I think the second half is, we're in a relationship business, and talking about skills, what to say, how to say it. We have this 38-page script booklet that we give to agents, and it's basically conversation starters. It's not supposed to be something that's memorized and 2-3 long page paragraphs of script. It's like, hey, what are some great one-liners that I can internalize, make my own, so I can just really build relationships? Because is a house going to sell itself?
No. Absolutely.
It's all about our relationships.
Okay. I couldn't agree with you more. I just wanted to get your feedback there. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah, let's press on.
Okay. So after the skills, the next thing that we have to know is like, okay, you're learning how to do. You're learning how to start taking action. You're learning what to say, who to say it to. Now the question comes up, right? You're at a networking meeting or something like that, and it's time for that elevator pitch, right? So teaching people to know their value and how to communicate their value is critical, right? Helping them know, like, what do I do? Who do I help? And how can I help this relationship move forward in one step, right? And let's plus wanting it, take it to the next level. So, and I go back to this, like when I was teaching this class about unique value proposition, taking the things that they've learned in the past. Like I've been in real estate since 2009, right? And before I got into real estate in 2009, I was in the technology sector, worked on satellites. I mean, just all sorts of stuff. I've been on top of buildings in downtown Chicago. Shout out to anybody in Chicago. Super windy and cold at the top of those buildings. I'm just saying. But what's amazing is everybody has this opportunity to go, what did I do before and how do I apply it to real estate? So when I went and made that transition in 2009, I was like, well, I'm very techie. I understand technology. Well, of course, Facebook and all this social media and all these other companies were like pushing stuff. Well, I was like, I can be techie. So I start going to these networking meetings and I'm like, I'm the techie realtor. I used to wear these really bad ties. Like I went through this phase, but I had these ties and I was like, I'm the techie tie guy. And that was my brand. That was my pitch, because I was very technology driven.
Okay.
Well, same thing as like a stay-at-home parent. What all do you do as a stay-at-home parent? I mean, you juggle schedules, you juggle like chaos, all this stuff. Like, how do you take that and apply it to the real estate world? Okay. So for me as a technology, I said, we implement technology, like Chime, and we have tools powering us to help move you through the transaction so it's as seamless as possible, and you have the most up-to-date information as fast as possible, right? So boom, I'm using that to my advantage because that's what's going to make me stand out over another agent that may be in my own office. and we all have our own value. So that's knowing your value and teaching them how to do that and express their value and get it out of their head onto paper so they can memorize it.
I don't think that could be any more important than it is in today's day and age, where the outside perception of real estate agents is people are trying to be, or there are outside forces, aka Silicon Valley, aka Wall Street, that are trying to push this perception onto the general public that realtors are inconvenient and door openers, right?
Right.
I mean, the one of the pitches of iBuyers is the convenience factor and things of that nature. So if iBuyers are convenient, that must mean real estate agents are inconvenient.
Yeah.
So
subtle messaging.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So you as an agent have to know your value beyond the fact that you have a license, because no one cares about the license. They care about what you do with it. And defining that value is oft overlooked.
Yeah, and I know our industry, you know, it's been changing. I mean, it's even been changing since 2009. It's only getting faster and faster as the change happens. You know, it's how we adapt. And I personally don't think the agent's ever going to be removed from the transaction. Like I don't think so, because it's such a large purchase. There's so much involved with it that having somebody to help guide people through it it's critical. And it's kind of scary to even think about, like, if there was somebody going, hey, I want to buy this house, no human interaction whatsoever, and then walk in, there's too many moving parts for that. So
well, until every house is printed exactly the same and cookie cutter, and we know, you know, everything about every single house, you know, that'll never happen.
Yeah, that'll never happen. Never happen. So that's knowing their value and how to communicate that. Ultimately, that's going to lead where their skill set, that's going to lead them to working with buyers and sellers, right? They've had the conversations, they know what to say, they've expressed themselves, and the buyer or seller has said, yes, I'm ready to do this. Now it's looking at what are the skills that I need to work with a buyer? What are the skills that I need to work and take a listing, and how do I market that listing? And then how do I actually take it from contract to close on both sides? Those are the things that take a little bit of time, but if you set them up in the beginning very quickly, when you have templates and everything already put in place for this, it helps them get out of their own way and go, I've got this. Especially whenever they have you as their broker, owner, leader behind them and supporting them, or a coach or whatever. Like if they have somebody behind them, that's the critical part. So pre-listing packets, you know, what do I say on the buyer consultations? How do I actually go take a listing, and how do I do a pre-listing packet? You know, all of these checklists that have to be very transparent today, because communication still to this day is the number one complaint that agent or consumers have against real estate, right? It's the communication factor. So being very transparent, open. Well, how does that happen? How do you help move somebody through that process that's never been through it themselves? So
you bring something up about, you said having support of the broker. That is not assumed, right? Not every broker is going to be supportive. Can we just touch really quickly on that specific subject and the importance of agent success, or the importance of a supportive broker in agent success?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think in today's world, it's pretty critical. And the way I don't know, when I go back to this, I look at those, we'll say law firms and all these big firms, right? And they're like, there's like 10 names on the building, right? And
yeah,
these law firms. Well, as a part of their mission or their company statement, they're like, we have 1,000 years experience. Okay.
Yep.
The same thing can be said inside of real estate, right?
Sure.
Well, and there's a difference, right? And there, like I said earlier, there's a place for you hang your hat in a location, and there's not a whole lot of support. Like there is a place for that. There's also a place where people need a little more hand holding. They need that consultation. And most of the successful brokers we see have some form of interaction whenever they're talking about growing agents. We also, like I said, we also see a place where somebody's going into a retirement phase and like, you know what, I want a flat fee or whatever it is to a specific broker, just because if I get it, I get it. It is what it is. I'm not looking at growing.
Sure.
So there is a place for both. So what questions do you have about that?
Oh, I mean, that was exactly the kind of comments I was looking for, that the agents need to understand what they need and be honest about it. And if they need that support, they need to go to a more fostering broker. If they're looking to just sail off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Then,
Well, and this is a conversation that we have with our broker partners, is you also need to identify who's your ideal agent, right? We talk about ideal clients for real estate agents. Well, who's your ideal client as a real estate broker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to be able to set expectations just like an agent would with their client. We have to set expectation on, you're not going to get a lot of support from me. And if that's what you're looking for, then hey, this is a place for you. If you're looking for a lot of hand holding, you want that growth, you want to go to the next level, whatever it is, and you need some of that, like it needs to be able to be communicated very clearly.
Okay, perfect. No, that was helpful. All right, so we've knocked out foundation skills, and now the third pillar being systems.
Now we get into it. Yep.
Let's do it.
This is where we get into the first part, is systems. It's busyness versus business. And I know there's a lot of that goes on here, but so I want to get into this a little bit and talk about it. Mm-hmm. You know, I actually started an organization back in 2012 because I saw a hole where, like, the day somebody got started in real estate, it took them like 6 to 9 months to get their first transaction. Okay. Like, most of the time, and I go back to that initial question, make sure they have a reserve set up, because that's when a lot of people are exiting the business. Because if they haven't had a transaction in that period of time, yep, all of a sudden their funds are depleted, they're moving on. Mm-hmm. Well, the reason is because they got stuck up here. They're getting ready to get ready. They want to know everything in the contract. Well, don't get me wrong. Like, we need to know what's in those contracts. We need to know what's not the blank. We need to know what's around the blank, right? We need to know what they say, right? So we can help consult people with that. But we also need to make sure that we're taking action immediately and not waiting on the business cards to be perfect and the website to be perfect and all of this stuff. Because that's where they're like, I want to look good. I want to be right before I ever talk to anybody.
Sure.
There's power. There is power in taking immediate action and just going, I'll figure the rest of it out later, especially when you have a system in place behind you. When you have that resources to pull upon, it takes a lot of that anxiety, fear out of the equation and moves them into the business phase. Where we also see this is we see this when agents really start taking action, right? And all of a sudden they're going, and next thing you know, they've got 4, 5, 6, 10 transactions in the pipe, and they're all in escrow. And next thing you know, what's the one thing that drops off?
Prospecting,
right? So they have this amazing business, and totally guilty of this. Like in the first year and a half of my business, I had an amazing month. Like, I had 10 transactions closed, and I was like, this is amazing. Yes. Like, all these checks are coming in. I'm like, woo. Well, all along the way, I wasn't paying attention, and I was very busy in making sure that I was giving the client experience that I wanted to set up and I wanted people to have. And I didn't drop the ball on anything. So I was busy with the activity of getting to closing, but I stopped being busy with my prospecting. So guess what happened when all those closed?
You had a whole lot of nothing.
Well, I took an amazing vacation. Don't get me wrong. I did, but then I came back and I was like, I've got nothing else. Now I've got to start all over again.
Yeah.
And that's
a defeating feeling, is it not?
Yeah, it was a hard lesson to learn. And I'm like, you know what? There's got to be a great balance. And by having great systems in place to make sure that you're, like time management, like making sure that you're doing your listing follow-ups and your marketing plans and everything else, but then also blocking off that continued prospecting time to move the ball forward. Because guess what? Like, it's going to close. You're going to get the check. And we live in a world where it's 90 days, right? I mean, typically we see things go through in 30, 45 days. However, like industry-wide, we're looking at a 90 days from start to finish.
Sure.
you got to keep the productivity going. So when we say busyness versus business, that's what I'm referring to. So I don't want anybody to mishear me and say like, oh, well, like, don't worry about the client. No, you absolutely have to worry about the client. And you also have to keep moving forward with your productivity. So,
yeah, I mean, you've got to keep that prospecting time sacred.
yep, that's absolutely right. So making sure that you have that in place leads to the next thing, which is the client care. Like the client care experience today is critical. Making sure that the communication is there, you have the follow-up plans in place, not only for prospecting, but for the contract to close and beyond. You know, I was actually looking at a stat and it was 90% of clients say they would use their agent again, and updated stat, 12% said it actually do.
Oh,
Right?
does that not just give you heart palpitations?
Oh my gosh, heartburn like crazy.
Ugh.
So it's all of these things combined, and we know, and I who knows what's going to happen with the way things are going right now in our industry. Before all of this, like last year, it was typically a 5 to 7 year window when people are like from the time they buy until they sell again. Who knows what that's going to be like right now? Maybe it still is, but most agents drop the ball here, right? And it's like as soon as you close, right, you close that transaction, well, that customer is not really thinking about you anymore. Yeah, you're like, woo, got the check, let's do this. I'm so appreciative of you. You send a gift, you do all these things, maybe a week afterwards, 2 weeks afterwards. Guess where the client's mind's at?
Moving into their new house,
Yeah, it's
moving their
moving.
utilities,
Yeah,
getting their life in order.
Exactly, getting their life in order. And so all of a sudden that buying process that has been probably stressful because they haven't done it before or in the last 5 to 7 years, now it becomes our responsibility if we want to retain that client to continue to follow up with them. So having a support system in place to continue that follow up, bringing you front of mind constantly, just bringing awareness, that will take that number from 12%, it'll make it go up. So having that, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to ask, what are some best practices in long-term client care?
Well, again, I go back to the relationship piece of it, right? I mean, you got to find those people that, know you, like you, trust you, and you've got to make sure that you're building relationships with them. I know there are agents out there that have databases of 25, 30, 40, 50,000 people.
Yeah.
And they're doing the mailers every single month. They're doing the newsletters every single month, and they have phenomenal businesses. But if we scale it back and look at like, if we're helping agents go from either 0, 5, or 10, and we want to help them move to 24, it doesn't necessarily take that big of a database to make that a reality. So it allows us to be very real, and real right here. It allows us to be very real and build relationships with people that we want to be in business with. And the agents get to decide that. So what does it look like? I'd love to take you to coffee or lunch or something once a year or twice a year. I mean, just that client care experience where it's like birthday reminders. I mean, if you're going to look at them and follow them on social media, if you see something big that's happened in their life, like comment on it, like it, do something out of the ordinary and actually send them a note. Like, when's the last time you got something in the mail from somebody? Oh,
Oh, it's just about wedding invites these days. That's about it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's it. It's standing out in different ways. Pop buys right now. I know pop buys. I was on a call on Tuesday, which was yesterday, I guess. And, they were talking about pop buys. And I'm like, okay, guess what? It's October. What are some great pop buys idea? Well, you can, like little pumpkins, like little bitty pumpkins. You put your business card on it and have a fun little saying with it. One agent was talking about they're delivering mums, and they do it every single year, and they drop it off unannounced, and then they pick up the phone and call them as they're leaving, be like, hey, make sure you check your front porch. I left a little gift on the porch for you, right? So it's a multi-contact type thing, but then it's like, oh, they were thinking about me. So that's the client care experience. A lot of people send sports calendars or annual calendars, just ways to follow up, keep your face in front of them.
Can I point out something there?
Sure.
That phone call, I think, where the guy places the mug or what have you on the front porch and then makes the phone call. That phone call is the absolute difference. And somebody thinking, oh, that's nice, they thought of me, and then actually feeling an emotional impact.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have gotten things from my realtor in the past, and maybe I'm jaded because I'm in this space and I know that this is like automated stuff. But when you make that phone call and you get to connect with them and they hear your voice and you hear theirs, etc., there's a special power about that that's going to make that drop off much significantly more effective.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to do it right and make that phone call, make that extra touch.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I found to be the most powerful is getting, not only, typically we're dealing with, parents or, obviously the adults in the equation. We're dealing with the adults buying the property. Mm-hmm. When you get the family involved, like when you start taking an interest in, Johnny or Susie, and you make sure that whether it's on birthdays, whether it's on holidays or whatever it is, that you acknowledge them as well, because what do we as agents, we go from selling a house to making homes. Is it just the parents or adults in the homes that are in the equation? No, it's the entire family. So as a relationship builder, and you can plug in and be a part of that, and you can become that connector and just pouring into them as a whole family that now lives in this home that you helped them get into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a part of a client care experience.
They'll never use another agent and they'll refer you like crazy.
Yep. That's absolutely right.
Awesome.
That's absolutely right. So that's the client care experience. And then it gets into the final part about systems is knowing your numbers, right? So knowing that what you've done, also knowing like your market, right? You need to know those numbers, that like how many homes are selling, how many are not, like what's the pendings, what are the listings, becoming that local real estate economist of choice on a consistent basis. You have to know that. And it's so simple. Like with technology today, it's so simple to pull these numbers and look at it once a week or even once a day. Pull it up, glance at it, and when you least expect it, you're going to pull out of your brain, you're going to pull that information out of the filing cabinet and go, Randy just asked me about this. Actually, I looked at that this morning and I saw that last week we sold 274 homes.
Absolutely.
When you can do it that quick, they know you're a professional.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you have to. Would you respect a doctor who had to reference their medical school book? Let's see. You've got a cough, you say? Okay, let's see. There's this many things.
Yeah, they pull up WebMD.
Yeah. Well, according to WebMD, everyone has cancer. So
yes, yeah.
I've accepted that. But yeah. So I mean, truly think. I mean, that may be quite an exaggeration, but it's the impact that you have.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's the impact in knowing what's going on. And it's just like in today's world, we don't know what's exactly happening, but being able to share the numbers along the way, because there could be a shift, right? In 2021, something totally different could happen in our economy. Well, being ready to start sharing that story is incredibly impactful. So, because ultimately it impacts those values. So because real estate, people are always buying and always selling, people's situations change, and being up to date on those numbers, when a situation happens, you're going to be able to quickly pull it out and go, yeah, your home's probably worth this.
Absolutely. And you bring up another great point, that no one really knows the direction that we're going in. And a very important part about being a leader is being open about not knowing, but making sure it's clear that you don't know, and that you can provide some type of direction thereafter. I don't know, but I have these resources that I can get for you and hope and help, right? So
go ahead, sorry.
Just saying, don't be dishonest or disingenuous. If you don't know, just say it clear to their face, and then go and then tell them, I will get you the information you want, and make sure you follow up with it.
Yeah. Well, and as a broker owner, as a leader inside of an organization and you're leading agents, right? Like you can do a lot of this for them, right? You could actually do an entire office overview of everything that happened inside your office versus what's happened on the market, right? There's a story to be told there. You can do some of this and help those new associates say, here's how I pull these numbers if you want to do it on your own, even getting hyper local into a neighborhood, right? So you can help share that information as well. So that's kind of high level overview on systems. And there's a lot more to it, but having that stuff in place to help support them so they don't feel like they're dropping the ball is critical whenever you're getting them into massive action.
Yeah,
so
couldn't agree more.
And that ultimately, next one talks about achievement.
Yes, let's hear about it.
Now we're rocking. Now we're going. We've got business. We've got things happening inside of this agent that you're leading right now. Now we've got to support them and teaching them how to tell their story, right? We've got to help them identify, and I mentioned this earlier about their ideal client. We've got to help them identify instead of going massive and big. You know, I did that trap. I fell into that trap when I first got started selling, and I was driving from one side of Dallas to the other. And I'm like, I can't afford the gas, right? I can't afford it. Sitting in traffic and all this stuff. I can't do that. Well, and then I realized I was like, I don't have to go everywhere when I can become an expert somewhere, right? So if I became the mayor of my town or whatever you want to call it, like I become that person where people go to in that area. And I say, I'm not going out of this particular radius, 10-mile radius, 20-mile radius, whatever it is. Outside of that, I'm okay referring it because I don't know enough about the area. So let me refer to you. I still get paid, right? Something. So helping them tell their story and how they stand out, going back to that unique value proposition. You know, a part of my motto is be you and be real. You have to help people get right here, right? You have to help them understand who they are as a person, what direction that they're going, who they want to serve in order so they can be real with the world, because people can read fake. People know and see straight through that today. And you've got to be your authentic self. So helping them along the way to find their authentic voice that is their specific ideal client, that's going to help them get the business. For me, it was real estate investing in the beginning. So
people are going to smell it when you're inauthentic.
Yep. That's absolutely
when you're
right.
not being genuine, it's going to reek off of you. So, I mean, you're going to scare people away doing that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah, go on.
So the next part is becoming that go-to expert, right? You know, I call this, I'm a movie buff. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to some of this stuff, but you know, there's the movie Wreck-It Ralph, right? I mean, you look at Wreck-It Ralph and they're in this arcade and there's all these video games that are plugged into an extension cord, right? Or a power strip. So I look at real estate agents or even broker owners, right? We have to become that connection point where buyer, seller, or agent, they have to connect. Well, there's this hub right here in the middle that all of a sudden, again, going back to client care, if you're really engaged with somebody and you're like, and they're like, hey, Nathan, you know, our kid is now 16 and they're looking for a car. Do you know anybody that has a car under $5,000? No, let me put it out there. Let me see. Oh yeah. Randy's got this awesome car. I think it would be great for Johnny or Susie. Like, let me connect you to. Did that have anything to do with real estate?
Nope.
No, not at all. However, they came to you because you're that local economist. And having that social proof and that those people that are your walking billboards, if you will, you mentioned billboards earlier, those people that would jump in front of a car for you because you've done so much for their family, that's when you become that go-to expert, right? Being that knowledgeable connector. And again, going back to the mayor of your town, knowing everything that's going on, events, new businesses, and just being connected so you can share the message of why it's so cool to live where you work.
You know what? If you want to read a good book about that connecting element, there's a book called The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. He's a really great author. My favorite book of all time is written by him called Outlier. It changed the way I looked at opportunity and luck per se. But the book called The Tipping Point discusses how really that law of 6 degrees of separation really has about around the second degree somebody who is that main router that connects you to all these other people you know. Like one person you know connects you back to the same person who then connects you everywhere else. So what I'm hearing you say is you want to be that person who's thought of as that connector who can point people in the direction they want to go, real estate related or not.
Yep, absolutely. I joked around and I had this little, I mean, I had the domain for it and everything. I was the Rolodex realtor. Don't do that. I'm just saying. But anyways, like the old school shoebox, like contact cards, that kind of stuff. I mean, we live with this in our phones now. It's all right here, but
yep.
You know, being that connector for people in all walks of life, even if it's real estate related or not, like if it's being a connector for a business owner that's new in your town and helping them get on their feet, if they provide great service, they're going to talk you up, right? I mean, it's a part of that social proof aspect.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, when it's a part of people hearing your name constantly, it's going to be impossible for them to forget about you.
Yep.
Cool. So we're nearing the end of our time. Let's what's the last piece here?
Last piece is really it's how to win, right? It's how to get people into a consistent form of actions, right? This is a 90-day process, right? You can go through this whole thing in a 90-day period as long as you're tracking the actions, and it's teaching people how to win. And once you've got the foundation, the skills, the systems, and you started working on the achievement phase, now it becomes really honing in and go, how do we increase your conversion rate? Like if you're at 50-50, like how do we get you to 60-40, right? So you're taking 60% or 6 out of 10. And then how do we get you to 70 and then 80 and then 90 so that when you walk in, you pretty much know you have the listing or buyer every time you do it.
Absolutely.
That's how we teach people how to win. And then we start holding them accountable. We have these constant conversations with them and consult with them to help them move forward to their goals, to help them reach their fullest potential.
I love it. So I know that these are 4 pillars that you absolutely can't live without, can't be successful without. Is there a particular order now that we've gone through them all? Did we just discuss them chronologically? Can you do them in different orders? Help me understand that.
Now you can jump in and out of this. If they're an experienced agent, you can jump in and out of here and you consult with them on a different level, right? So there's somebody who's been in the business for a long time. They have a great database, but their follow-up's not really well. Well, yeah, you can go straight to client care and work on that. Now, where we find though, where it's really impactful when we bring it back to the foundation, and that's where we start. No matter if they're brand new to your company and a top producer, still having that foundational question, because it helps you as a broker owner have that baseline of where they're at. And then you can show them, okay, how can I help you get to where you want to go? So it does help to go back to the foundation, make sure that they have the skills that they need to get to where they want to go, have the systems in place, and then help them develop it. So then you can help them achieve what they want to achieve. So there is a method to our madness when we put these pillars in place.
I love it. I'm sure many are surprised to find out that they may have the second, third, and fourth pillar in place, but the first pillar is shaky, which is why they're not seeing the success they want.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And so we know, going back to who we serve and how we serve them, we know, been there, that once you're at the top, like when you're that broker owner, it's lonely at the top sometimes. And there's not a lot of places where you can turn to. So I love that you're doing this because this is a great outlet. You don't have to recreate the wheel. There's not a lot of, you don't have to do it alone. We have the stuff in place. It's all here. And if you want to learn more about it, we're here. I'd be happy to share it with you.
Yeah, talk to us about the locker room. How can people contact you? Give us a little pitch here at the end.
Okay, so a little pitch. So this whole program, right? So actually looking at this whole program, this is a single course that we actually have that is a part of the Locker Room Nation. And, normally this course sells, it's $495. It's a 12-week program. It's mathematically geared to help them go through foundation skills, systems, and achievement. It's put in that process, and along the way, mathematically shows that they have the opportunity to add 12 and a half transactions to their pipeline in that period of time. Right. So what does that mean, right? Like we look at this, we've got this amazing book and you can order this and stuff. It's really awesome. And it is click and play. So it's self-guided if an agent wants to go through it. Mm-hmm. Where we find the most impact is happening is in that consultation. So when we work with our broker partners on how to have those consultations and lead people through these conversations and continue to move them forward, that's where we're seeing the greatest impact. Mm-hmm. But so this course, right, over this 12-week period covers all of this stuff. Normally it's $495 for an agent to hop in this program, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. If you want to do that, if you know of an agent that's in your organization and you're like, you know what, I want to put, you know, somebody through this, it's called Track. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me know. I can give you a discount code. You can put it in the comments, whatever you want to do, but like we get you 10% off of that just because you're a part of this. And again, being on the call today. So woo, there's your little discount there. So, now what we also do though, is that if you're interested in bringing this to your entire organization, we have a way that you can actually, the agents don't actually have a financial investment into it. So it could be free potentially to all of the associates inside your organization. Mm-hmm. And if they want to learn, if anybody wants to learn more about how we do that, I'd love to share it with you. But, you know, we're providing, like I said earlier, online university where agents can self-pace and go through things. We have over 400 courses in there right now. We have an online library and resource toolkit where people can download, plug and play systems into an agent's business right away. We also have like programs like Track where they can go through and continue to build. And I reference Track like this, sports analogy, played basketball in high school. Off season, where do you think they sent us? They sent us on the track, right? 4 laps around the track equals a mile. So think of Track in real estate, this book, as once a quarter. If you were to do this once a quarter with your agents, and that's all you did, and you help them move through this program and become a great business owner and salesperson, mm-hmm. Well, mathematically in 12 weeks, it's supposed to do 12 and a half transactions. So perfect world, hey, first year real estate, if you do it and you crush it, 48 transactions. Okay, here's the reality. We know if somebody's brand new getting started in this, it may take them a little longer. So what if they did it twice a year, ran the full program? How many transactions are they closing? If they did half of what the program sold, they're doing 24 transactions a year.
24, yeah. Getting back to that number.
Okay, if they do a quarter of what it talks about, is it still powerful for that first year agent to close 12 transactions in their first year in the business?
It's probably changing that person's life.
It is changing their life. So it's stuff like this. And then on top of that, we do the weekly coaching with agents in the organization, just all sorts of stuff. So that's it. If you want to know more about it, I'm happy to share with you. Just know that we're here to help support you and get you to the next level if you choose to. So.
Yeah, guys, here's the thing. If you want a professional training program for your brokerage, but you don't want to be responsible for building it, here's your answer. I mean, plain and simple. There's a certain brand with red and white colors that is famous for the quality of their training program, right? That gets people to drink the Kool-Aid and they'll do it over and over again for their whole real estate career. If you want that type of loyalty for your brokerage, then you need a professional training program, and this is what those guys do. So anyways, that is that was my takeaway. I hope you all enjoyed it. Nathan, I really appreciate you taking an hour of your day to speak with me today. And what's the website? Lockerroom.com?
So yeah, you can go to tlrnation.com and you can check out all sorts of stuff. We got some free stuff on there. There's more information about Track. Randy, I'll give you that promo code so you can drop it into the Facebook here in just a little bit. So if anyone wants to do that, we'll go from there. tlrnation.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Nathan.
All right. Catch you later.
Take care. Bye.